Hello everyone, welcome back to the third episode of the series Checkmate Patterns You Must Know. If you're new to this, we are trying to elevate our tactics in this series and improve our calculations and sharpen basically our tactics. How are we doing that? We are introducing patterns, checkmate patterns to be more precise, trying to practice them, understand them, become familiar with these patterns, and hopefully become able to apply them in our games, spot them in our games. There are already two episodes. In every episode, we are introducing three checkmate patterns with some exercises, definitions, and so on and so forth. So without further ado, let's jump ahead and start with the first checkmate pattern for today. Today we are going to be introducing three as well. The first one is called Epaulette. I'm not sure how you would pronounce it, but it's a checkmate pattern, and the name basically comes from this ornamental shoulder piece you have on some uniforms, especially military uniforms. But long story short, it's named. The name comes from because you have two of these things, like these ornaments on your shoulders. You have two of them, and these things or these two figures are the equivalent of that, and they're actually preventing the king from escaping. So if you give a check with the queen, because the queen is targeting these three squares, it's a checkmate. And the king is it's not suffocating, or from the first look, the first impression would be that it's not suffocating, but it's actually suffocating because of these two rooks. The king cannot slide to the right or to the left. This is, of course, again, every time we're introducing this as a basic graph to show you the concept to help you grasp it, and then we're going to jump into the exercise. The first tactic, it's pretty similar, right? But our queen cannot get there or cannot get here. What you might notice is that these two squares are covered by our pieces, which means any vertical check would be a checkmate if the piece cannot be captured or the check cannot be blocked. So feel free to pause the video if you would like to try to figure it out yourself. The move is actually rook g8. You're gonna tell me, no, this is not correct because bishop is capturing the rook. Yes, that's true. This is a part of the plan. We sacrificed the rook basically. Why did we do that? Because we're gonna give a check with the queen, queen g7 check, and it's gonna be checkmate. So it's fine. It's like the main concept, the main constellation. It should look something like this, but all roads lead to Rome, right? So as long as you deliver a check and all the squares are covered and these two rooks are kind of helping with delivering the checkmate, then it is a checkmate. Okay. Another tactic or puzzle. What makes this one interesting? This is a game played by Magnus Carlsen, the best chess player in the world right now. And what makes this game very special is that he played it when he was 13 years old, I believe, and it was his first win, it was the first time for him defeating a grandmaster, if I remember this correctly. He was either 12 or 13, and he did some crazy tactics. He sacrificed his rook, and now white could deliver a checkmate in one. Do you see it? It's queen d7, checkmate. So it's the same concept, it's just rotated. So whatever you see, the pattern is you have to practice and do a lot of puzzles because it's not going to be served to you on a silver plate. You have to work for it. Sometimes you have to spot it. Sometimes it's rotated. Sometimes it's a different constellation. It could be that these two are not, like, maybe they're pawns and not in this position in particular, but it doesn't have to be two rooks. But you get the idea. Okay. Again, I would strongly suggest you do a lot of exercises, especially on that one, because this one, I feel like it's you always feel like your opponent, you have this illusion that your opponent is kind of safe, but your opponent is not safe. Anyways, moving on to pattern 2. This is what we call the Dovetail. It's the name is self-explanatory, I guess. This is a checkmate, and think of this like it's like a tail, or it's the other way around actually. Oops. So this is the tail, and this is the head of the dove, and usually it's a queen giving a checkmate because it's covering all these squares, and it's protected by a pawn. This one is kind of easy to spot, and there are a lot of puzzles I've done, and probably you've seen if you do chess puzzles, where you maneuver with the queen and eventually bring or force the king to go to one of these squares where it's blocked by its own pieces, and then a diagonal check would be a checkmate. Let's have a look at an exercise. This one is kind of similar. Of course, this is a pawn, but it could be also a bishop. What do I mean by that? This is a checkmate. So as long as you're defending the queen, even if it's like a knight here, it would be a checkmate. It would suffice as long as you're protecting the queen and the queen is delivering the killer blow. What about this one? This one is a little bit more difficult to spot because there's a lot of action on the board. Like this could be captured, this could be captured, your rooks could be captured both. Your opponent could deliver a check. They could maneuver with the queen and perhaps try to attack you. So you have to be fast. Feel free to pause the video if you would like to give it a try. The checkmate is queen e8. It's checkmate because these two squares are covered by the bishop. So in that case, there are no pawns or figures by the opponent blocking or restricting the movement. It's actually it's our figures that are doing the work. Okay, so this is the second one. Okay, moving on to the third one. The third one is Lolli's Mate. To be honest, the name, I was not familiar with the name. I thought it was something else. I heard a lot of chess players, grandmasters, and streamers, including Hikaru Nakamura. He calls it the Swiss cheese, or I don't know. I guess it's because like you have this basically this hole in black's defense, and you deliver a checkmate with the queen. Of course, this happens only when black usually plays this move because the bishop comes and gets placed on that square. If the bishop gets exchanged or captured for one reason or another, it could lead to checkmate ideas. Of course, this is, I mean, again, it's I don't think it's quite realistic. Let's have a look at something more realistic. So it's we have to prepare the same thing, and the nice thing about these tactics, they might seem quite intuitive, but sometimes it's hard to spot them in a game, especially when you don't have a lot of time. But once you get familiar with these patterns, you immediately spot it. Like I would intuitively play this without even calculating because I'm kicking the king away, and then I place my queen here. The pawns cannot be pushed. It doesn't bring anything. The queen cannot come to protect this square. It's just too far. Doesn't matter what your opponent's gonna do. You just give a checkmate on the next move. Okay, one more exercise regarding this checkmate pattern. We're gonna raise the bar. This one is not easy at all. And this is what I like about these checkmate patterns. Once you start doing them, I'll show you how far you can take it. This is gonna be a checkmate in 6 moves. So don't feel bad if you don't manage to find it, to spot it. Of course, there are a lot of ways to deliver a checkmate. The fastest would be in 6 moves, but there are several ways to deliver a checkmate. Of course, you could always capture here, and the queen captures, and then you play the rook, and then your opponent captures, you capture, they come here, and then you play this, and it's a checkmate. Black could kind of make it longer for you. Oops, what's happened? And give a check. Doesn't matter. You go with your king, and it's a checkmate. It's just a question of time before you deliver a checkmate. Of course, this is one way to do it. The fastest and the cleanest way would be just to bring the rook. It doesn't matter what your opponent does, you are gonna give a check, 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 king goes back. Look at this, you sacrifice 2 rooks. I mean, you managed to capture the queen in exchange, but this is not the idea, this is not the plan. The plan is just to give a checkmate here, and it cannot be... I mean, now it's our turn. It's not even like black doesn't even get the chance to defend or try to stop this checkmate because we're checkmating on this move. All right, now we've already introduced 9 patterns, 3 episodes, 3 each. You can find a lot of these exercises on many platforms, chess.com, learnchess, and even I think on Chessbase. So there are a lot of books, of course. You could find these checkmate patterns in books, just normal puzzles or Puzzle Rush. On chess.com, you will come across all of them, actually, a mix of all of them. So it would be actually a great exercise if you have if you could do this Puzzle Rush if you have a membership. That would be it for this time. again, we're gonna next time we're gonna introduce 3 more, and every time it's gonna be more specific, and it's gonna be a little bit, let's say, more difficult to spot, or something that's very, very particular, because as I said, there are over 20, but the main ones, the core ones, I would say are around 10, but we're gonna try to cover as many as possible. And that will be it for this time. Hope it's useful. Hope you learned new checkmate patterns in this video. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And I'll see you in the next one.